Okay, our next speaker is going to be Dennis Vanwey. Dennis, you here? I actually haven't met Dennis yet. Oh, here we go. All right. Dennis is OPTC Firearms Instructor and a retired Assistant Chief of Police.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank Dan for inviting me to speak here today. Like you said, I've been a police officer for over 30 years. Been a firearms instructor for police academies here in Ohio since about 1985. When I retired, I was asked by the Department of Justice to go over to Iraq and train Iraqi police officers. Did a tour over there. Something that we need to keep in mind is the fact that in the United States today that police protection is getting very thin. We're seeing areas like Toledo that are laying off lots and lots of police officers. Other areas are seeing that same problem. As the economic situation worsens in the country, the criminals are going to make us feel their pain. As much as we would like to as police officers, we can't be there when you need us at the most. More and more, we're going to have to rely on ourselves as armed citizens to protect ourselves. There's a popular catchphrase that's going around nowadays that says, when seconds count, the cops are only minutes away. And sadly, that's true. We can't be there at times. We have to take that responsibility ourselves as legally armed citizens. One thing I would like to stress in keeping in this mind that probably a great majority of the people here have CCW permits. The training that goes into that is a great start. But like in police work, training has to be ongoing. We need to continue our training, continue our practice, make sure that we are competent with our firearms. We've got wonderful trainers that are out. I noticed a flyer over the sign-up tent for Rob Pincus, his Combat Focus program. Excellent instructor. Down in Columbus in October, in Cincinnati in October, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman is going to be giving another presentation on his Bulletproof Mind Seminar. If you haven't had a chance to ever hear Dave Grossman speak, I would highly recommend it. Got an email yesterday, I think there are 10 seats left, so when you get home, look it up. Buckeye Firearms is promoting it. But of all these classes that I've gone through in over 30 years, I think Dave has been one of the finest trainers and instructors that I've ever had. But we need to be learning more about, besides the mechanics, we need to learn what is going to happen to us in a lethal force encounter. We need to know the mental things, the psychological, the physical things that we're going to experience if we have to use lethal force. This is going to be a life-changing event if that ever happens. We have to be mentally prepared for that. We have to be constantly aware that we are carrying a firearm for one purpose. We are carrying it for the purpose of defending ourselves against an armed person who is trying to kill us. We are training for self-defense against another live, living, breathing human being. And we will most likely kill that person. Now that's never our intent. We never shoot to kill. If anyone ever asks you if you shoot to kill, the answer should be a resounding no. We don't shoot to kill. We don't have that right. We are not judge, jury, and executioner. We have court systems for that. We have the right to use whatever force is necessary to defend ourselves against deadly aggression. That's what I teach my police officers every class I teach. Another thing that we keep in mind is that we don't shoot to wound. Now you see in the media, well, why didn't they just shoot the gun out of his hand? They've never shot under stress. Those of you that are competitor shooters, you know how much stress there can be just when you're shooting for points. Imagine if there's bullets winging over your shoulder. The amount of stress, you don't have the ability to shoot to wound. Statistics show that police officers who can shoot 100% qualification scores on a firing range, get in an actual gunfight, they will shoot 20% hits. That means for every 10 shots that they fire, 8 we will miss. These are highly trained, hopefully, police officers who are supposed to know what they're doing. Under stress, our skills decrease. Well, we don't shoot to kill. We don't shoot to wound. What do we do? Why do we shoot? The way I like to refer to it is we shoot to live. We shoot to live. We're shooting to protect our lives. We're trying to stop that deadly aggression, like some of the people were saying here, which is exactly right. But our purpose is to live. We're shooting because someone has tried to kill us or someone else. We have that right as armed citizens to defend ourselves against deadly threats. This is the reason why our founding fathers had the brilliance to add a Second Amendment to our Constitution. Despite what many of the politicians say, it's not designed for hunters, it's not designed for target shooters, it's designed for self-defense, period. That is why we have a Second Amendment. That is why we carry firearms, to protect ourselves and other people. I mentioned Colonel Dave Grossman. I would highly recommend a book that he wrote that's called On Combat. Excellent book. I took it with me and read it several times while I was in Iraq. In this book, Dave, who is a retired Army Ranger, Lieutenant Colonel in the Army, he was a psychology professor for West Point, a brilliant man. He was in his book. He talks about during one of his presentations, he had an old soldier came up and talked to him and said, "You know, there are 3 types of people in the world. The first, you've got sheep. Your sheep are average, everyday people, living their lives, blissful ignorance, never thinking for a moment that someone is going to try to hurt them. People who would never harm another person except by accident. This is your average, everyday citizen. And they're wonderful people. And secondly, we have wolves. Those are our predators of our society. Those are the terrorists, the criminals, the people who rob, rape, kill, murder, attack the sheep without mercy. They ignore all the laws which are designed to restrict them and protect the other people. So what possible reason would we have to believe that they would obey gun control laws? They don't obey laws, that's why they're criminals. Finally, the third type of person are the sheepdogs. He refers to them as the armed citizens, the cops, the military, the people who carry concealed weapons for defense. These are the soldiers, the warriors. These are the people who do not want to harm anyone. They don't go looking for trouble. But if it finds them, they'll use whatever force is necessary to stop that person. These are the men and women who would die to protect the flocks, their friends, their families, themselves, and rightly so. I, for one, am proud to have lived my entire life as an adult as a sheepdog. I didn't know it until a few years ago. I never heard it referred to that way. But I love that analogy. I'm a sheepdog. Everyone here is a sheepdog. And we should all be proud of that fact. Russian Special Forces troops who stopped the school massacre in Beslan, Russia a number of years ago have a motto that says, translated in English, "If not me, then who?" Well, it's the same thing for protecting our people. If it isn't us, then who's going to do it?